Hello Dino friends, welcome to Kazeros Raid Echidna Guide. Raid requirement is 1620 for normal and 1630 for hard. If you clear the raid, you get to receive purple scales on normal and eyeballs on hard. You can use them to advance hone up to 20 additional eye levels. To activate them, first 10 levels will require 12 purple scales on armor and 30 on weapon. From 10 to 20 will require eyeballs. Eyeballs are converted automatically into skills 1 to 2 ratio if you press this button. The honing process itself is a simple fill up bar to complete. And every 7 tap will give you special RNG bonuses. Before the fight, there's a lot of battle item options. I would recommend Atrophin and Stimulant for supports than Time Stop. There's a lot of DPS opportunities you can use it on, especially the Snake Clash. Then you have a choice of Dark Bomb and Fire Grenade. Fire Grenade is used to help rooted players, or executing a later mechanic if Sidereal cannot be used. For your other slot, you can take Sleep Bomb or Splendid Sacred Charm. Sleep Bombs are generally used to stun mind control players, since it happens very often. For Splendid Sacred Charm, it is not mandatory, but one person can carry it to execute a running mechanic later. At the start, it's super crucial to know that getting hit by her pattern will give you a stack of flowers. This debuff lasts a very long time, and getting 3 stacks of this will mind control you. This wipes most parties even today because mind control players tend to get instantly killed by other players' skills. Not every single of her normal patterns does this, so let's go over them really quick first. Standing on top of the flower carpet during her timed attack will give you a stack. Notice that it glows pink when it does this. Any flower butts that explode will give you a stack. If 2 or 3 are stacked, you get mind controlled instantly. Her flyaway pattern is one of the most dangerous ones because the cone attack itself and the flower butts give you stacks. Don't DPS during this time. She'll fire a ribbon in front, jump, and fire again if missed. If someone is hit, the after explosion gives you a stack. Make sure you ping. She fires ribbons in a cone shape. If someone is hit, her follow-up attack gives you a stack. Her right side is always safe. She will dance around and fire waves around her 3 times. Then she'll jump up and land in an outer ring explosion. The outer ring explosion gives you a stack. The best advice I can give you during this phase is, whenever you see a ribbon pattern, think of it as it's giving you stacks. So try to program yourself that if you ever see ribbon projectiles, stay away or ping if anyone is caught. You cannot get hit by this due to mind control. This triple combo ribbon pattern comes out very often too. So when she slashes twice, her third attack is going to be the outside ring, and it's going to be inside safe, but if you're too close like my artist right here, you're going to get launched up in the air and knocked out to a point that you're going to get hit by her charmed attack. I didn't get hit here because I was spamming my spacebar. So you need to make sure when this pattern is happening, you either want to use your tenacity skills or stay just far enough from her, but close enough so that you don't get hit by any of her skills, because this is a really good DPS opportunity. And the flyaway pattern is the most dangerous pattern in this whole raid. It's a #1 raid wiper. She basically jumps away and there will be a lot of flowers and there will be a cone shape attack that also gives you stacks. You have to immediately recognize this and go behind her, just like my Gunlesser does with the backstep. And you also need to know that she does this twice in this phase, and she does it up to 3 times on the next phase too. So this particular pattern, again, it's a #1 raid wiper, so you must recognize this and just run away as much as you can, because you have a very high chance to get mind controlled by this pattern. Coming back to the mechanics, very first thing you'll see is a Timed Mech around 8:15 where the flower carpet will glow, choosing 2 players to drop pools and 2 players for a wave attack. The wave attack hurts and the pool should be dropped carefully to not make a ring of carpets that could spawn a flower. This happens very often throughout this phase, and I will explain advanced drop positions in a bit. You will also see 2 types of mirror patterns. If she simply spawned 4 mirrors, they're all aimed at a random player, and it does significant amount of damage. If she flies upwards and spawns 8 mirrors, everyone must run away and focus dodging. The laser and hitting the mirrors stun you, and the mirror's laser following the players do huge amounts of damage. The standard proper way to dodge is to stand beside the initial laser and go across to give yourself enough room to kite everything. So to give an example here, even if you don't have room, just be patient because the laser stuns you. If I get a little bit of hits, that's fine, because if I get anxious and go too fast, I can get hit by the laser and get stunned too. So always stay patient, let the laser finish, and go across immediately. When you progress properly without getting hit too much, the first mechanic will start around 7:30, where Ren will start talking to you. The dialogues are pretty important here to recognize mechanics. The screen will be covered in pink fog. and the tile you're stepping on will be attacked by fly traps. The standard way was to move tile by tile as a team to dodge about 8 fly traps. Since this was difficult to execute, the cheese method was to have someone get caught by one on purpose due to the damage being not insta-kill, then everyone moving over afterwards to the same tile and stay until the mechanic is complete. The requirement is to have enough shield and DR throughout the damage. I will show you some examples and pointers. If you're the one getting eaten by the fly, you need to make sure to communicate where you're going to be. It needs to be a clean surface, and they need to be the first that solo as early as possible for at least 2 tile distance away. This is to place additional flower explosions away from you, because they spawn from nearby players. Also, don't be focused on moving too far away to the walls. Some players may not get there in time. And as for Gun Lancer, during your combat readiness stance, you need to use Nella when you see the blue telegraph appear. Make sure your second Nella tripod is at effectiveness for additional DR, not the cleanse one. It can be level 1 or 5. Gun Lancer is the easiest class to execute this, because they can just save their Nella. This is an example flytrap mechanic with my artist. So I see the dialogue now, I ping the position, and then I awakening immediately. And the tough part is you have to save your sun sketch because that's where your DR is. If you don't have the sun sketch available, it's going to be in a tough position. You won't be able to live, but if you have something like Crisis Evasion, you can still live too. Keep an eye on this blue telegraph, and as soon as the blue telegraph appears, that's when you use your sun sketch because you have enough time to last the whole time. And this is the example of my bard for the fly trap mechanic. I place in position, I use my awakening immediately, and then I wait to use my Guardian Tune as soon as I see the blue telegraph. So Bard is a little bit different because during Echidna Gate 2, you should not take Wind of Protection. If you take Wind of Protection, what happens is when you get MC'd, people can't free you because you're immune to CC for once, and that causes a lot of problem. You can use Agile Defense, but it makes your buff last only 4 seconds instead of 8. So if you go back here, if you're using Agile Defense, it is very important for you to use Guardian Tune almost as soon as the fly trap eats you. Then you'll have enough time. In this case, I have 8 seconds. That's because you have another choice. De-level your Guardian Tune to 9 and then level up your Guardian Tune to 10 and then just save as is and not take the level 3 tripod. That will make the Guardian Tune last 8 seconds, but you don't have the tripod for the third one. I don't have a Paladin to show, but pretty much any class can do it if they receive Awakening Shield with DR. For all other players, you need to watch out and take your time. If you leave too early or too late, you may get eaten or get someone else killed. Keep an eye on the blue telegraph. It gives you enough time to just walk it out. You will notice Echidna will also have an identity meter. This meter filled at half and filled at full will execute the Mirror Maze mechanic. This meter fills up quicker if people get hit a lot and mind controlled. If the meter fills up half or full, the identity mech queues. Echidna will start a dialogue and your vision will get smaller. She'll be spawning a mirror and she'll be standing on the opposite end of pre-indicated blue highlighted tile. The mirror will shoot a light beam that bounces until it loses its next target. The team's job is to send this light to Echidna from the mirror. I will explain the logic to the mechanic here. The map is a 7-tile hexagon board, like a beehive. At the start, you'll have random flower pools spawn, and 2 blue highlighted tiles indicating where the mirror and the boss will be. The positions can be either from wall to as close as 1 tile apart. The mechanic is fairly easy when the blue tiles are far apart because you have all these rooms to work with. But when the tiles are closer, the proc parties tend to fail a lot because they don't extend the path far enough for all the 8 players to squeeze in. The light will fire straight from the mirror. The effect will show the angle. So as you can see, the mirror spawns here and it's pointing at 6 o'clock. This is important to know because the light will fire straight. So if you stand on the right or the left side, the light's not going to reach them. The light will always bounce to the nearest player or Echidna. If there is none, the mechanic fails. It's okay to stand on the same tile with Echidna or the mirror. You just need to make sure you're intersecting to receive the light first. Players standing on the corresponding tile will flip, meaning if you stand on the flower bed, it will be deleted. If you stand on the clean tile, you'll create a flower bed. So for here, we're all standing on the flower bed. This is because we placed them like we were creating a path. This is very important to plan out instead of simply placing pools farther away. These red circles are a petrifying explosion. You can overlap it but cannot touch other players. This can also be used as a distance measurement for light bounces. If the circles barely touch each other, this means your distance is enough. But beyond that, it might be a little bit dangerous. 2 players cannot be on the same tile on hard mode. It will create a small flower pool. My advice is try to ignore the hexagon tiles and think of the light path and stand close or farther based on where the light will travel. As long as two players don't stand on top of the same tile, the mechanic is much easier to execute. For example, if you're respecting tiles, this particular mechanic will be so much harder. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And each players will need to exactly stand at this point to have this light pass in a certain way to reach the boss. But instead, if you think of it this way, where you can stand on blue tiles, where have 2 players gone, so you have 6 players to work with, and then you have the second player, third player, and the fourth player will need to be a little bit closer to the third player, and the fifth player needs to be a little bit farther from the third player so that the light bounces the fourth player first. So you will kind of stand in a triangle formation, and then you have the sixth player standing farther away from the third and the fourth player, so you would be standing around here. And the seventh player can stand a little bit closer to the eighth player to make a little bit of pathing there too. So if a light actually travels, it will be traveling to the closest person, so it would be the dot here, and there will be that here. And since this is farther than this particular bounce, it would bounce here first and bounce here, 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 and here. So if you just keep in mind that the light will always bounce to the closest person and everyone understands this logic, this mechanic is infinitely easier. So going over an example here, the blue tiles are at 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock. I kind of wanted to delete the flower bed, and artists kind of understood what I was trying to do. So what we did was we stood close as possible to the corner so that the light can reach us. And at the same time, the Sork also knows us what we were trying to do. So he moved up to the right side a little bit to make sure the light bounces. So we are basically skipping a tile. Again, think about simply transferring the light across rather than limiting yourself by calculating exact tile placements. Also, when you're free, don't rush in too fast because the light can be intercepted at anything. So it is the best practice to be away from the light and go around to the boss so that you can DPS. This is another good example of the mirror mechanic. First position is at 9 o'clock and 7 o'clock. The party number 2 over here was thinking of going outside, and going outside, it simply just roots you and people need to save you afterwards. But the real position that he should be in is over here or over here, because again, if he stands here, the light will jump around in a zigzag, or if he stands on the right side, it's going to make a big curve. So he can stand either or instead of going outside. Remember, you can stand in between 2 of the tiles to make a triangle shape. So always think about zigzag, always think about triangular formations. So to wrap up, just think about 2 questions on your head. Am I standing on someone else's tile? Is the light following a proper path to the final destination regardless of tile order? Those are the only things you need to keep in mind, and it will help you a lot. Before going over the next major mechanic, you'll also see a random special mechanic that has an internal cooldown of 2 minutes. There are 2 variations and you'll see them alternate throughout this phase. First is the reflect. She'll take a pose and a large pink dome will appear. Do not attack because the reflect damage is massive. Supports can use DR here just in case the reflect pops. The timing used to be brutal, but it's much more forgiving now. And the other special pattern is the stagger pattern. She's going to walk very slowly and then you'll see a stagger bar appear. At the same time, 3 people will be targeted and they will spawn 3 flower buds under their feet. It's a blue telegraph and there will be 4 of them. And the job is whoever is not targeted, which is us over here, will need to stagger her in time. Unless if you don't stagger her in time, there's going to be a giant blue telegraph appearing and it's going to stun a lot of people. For the targeted players, you must not get hit by the flower buds because it will most likely mind control you. And when stagger is complete is a good DPS opportunity. Around under 210, the mirror mechanic will start. So she'll disappear and 7 mirrors will appear on the front of your screen with the camera change. So within these 7 mirrors, you just need to find the correct one out of the other, and then counter them. For hard mode, these mirrors will fire a lightning laser that can stun you. Hitting the wrong mirror will root you, and you need to be freed, or someone needs to throw a fire grenade at you. So on the right side, in this case, this side is looking left, and all the other ones are looking right. So this is the correct mirror to counter. And something you need to watch out here is you notice the paladin is rooted by hitting the wrong mirror. This is because when another player counters the correct mirror, and if you use a counter that has a little bit of cone shape, it activates the mirror beside that as well. And if other players are countering together, usually the AoE counter players get rooted. So you need to watch out how it works. You need to either stand right in front of the mirror, or you just need to let the teammates counter for you. So in this case, the paladin's counter is a big cone shape, so he got rooted because the glaivier hit the correct mirror first. So in this case over here, everyone is looking at left side, but this one is looking at right. and another one here, so everyone's looking at right, but this one is looking at left. A quick fun tip that we joke about it all the time on stream is it's actually easier, instead of looking at the top side, it's actually much easier to identify if you look at the bottom side. You gotta pay attention to those. So after the mechanic is over, it is a really good DPS timing. It's a really well-known Esther Azena timing as well, so you can use it here. But make sure to know, if you're the raid leader, look at the mini-map one more time, see where the boss is, and then use it accordingly, because sometimes you can completely miss not knowing where the boss is landing. The next major mechanic starts around 4 minutes. She'll disappear with the dialogue and appear in one of the wall sides of the map. One thing to mention is some people mix this up with the Mirror Mech mechanic with this mechanic. She has a different dialogue and her identity grays out, so you need to make sure that you know which mechanic is going to happen. She will have an inside safe circle, and this outside circle damage is a kill damage, so you need to make sure that you group up at the correct position. And after the explosion, you'll get a tether. So this tether needs to be cut by running as far away as you can. And the distance is about 5 tiles within the map. Since she's at 11 o'clock, you need to run all the way to 5, or maybe around this side or this side. That would be like the max distance. Maybe somewhere around here too. And while you're running away, you need to watch out the pools, because the pools will give you a stack. And if you can't run away in time, you'll get a stack consistently, and then you'll be mind controlled as well. This particular mechanic causes the most accidents, so you need to make sure that you run away as quickly as you can. And these butterflies, if you get hit by them, you'll be put to sleep to about 8 seconds. So what people do is sometimes they get hit by the butterfly, they get stuck, their tether's not cut, and they get MC'd. So in this case, we see over here, this paladin got hit by the butterfly, and then he's going to be MC'd after. Since we all reached to this point, we got our tethers cut, so we're okay. And as soon as the fog clears out, we just need to make sure to save everyone by using our sleep bombs or our stun skills. This mechanic's difficulty is based on how well you cleaned up the map. If you have a lot of pools, obviously it's going to be very hard. And at the same time, when we talked about battle items, this is where Splendid Sacred Charm comes in. When you travel maybe about 3 tiles, using the Sacred Charm will prevent you from getting stunned by these butterflies, so it prevents additional accidents. And also, keep in mind when you guys are placing pools, placing on the wall side is very dangerous, because most of the time when this mechanic happens, everyone's going from wall to wall. And if there's a pool there, we can't stand there, and then the distance is not long enough for the tether to be broken. Whenever you guys are placing a pool, unless you can delete it right away, placing it on the wall side is actually a bad idea. And going back and talking about pools, let's say if the pools are right here, these two right here, the pools don't turn into a pink pool until a little few seconds after the explosion, so you can actually spacebar aggressively through right away. But let's say the fog's already there and there's a wall of flower beds, you can actually use your spacebar at the right time to go through. At max, you'll get 2 stacks, so it's actually a really good strategy to aggressively just get away and break the tether than trying to go around and find a correct path that takes too long, because if you take too long, you gotta start getting some stacks. After the mechanic, you will need to push your HP down to 136 bars, while going through identity mechanic along with timed ones like reflect and stagger. If you take too long, you'll see another fly trap mechanic, so you have to push quickly. Most clear groups push before this. When you reach 136 bars, you'll see a cutscene and a large Echidna phase will start. The intro part is scripted. We will have 3 of these mirror waves. These lasers will stun you for a bit. First one can be walked through, but the second one needs to be spacebarred through on hard mode only. And afterwards, the third one can be walked over as well. During this time, she will also fire a charm laser randomly left or right 3 times. Getting hit by the mirror is okay, but you'll often get comboed by her laser too, so during procs, try to stay back and feel the timings for the mirror lasers. When the third mirror has passed by and her third laser is fired, she will always do a counter, so she'll raise her hand all the way up like this. If she glows purple, it's a co-op counter. If she glows yellow, it's a fake counter. It's very critical to pay attention. Hitting the fake counter won't wipe the party, but it causes a lot of panic. Fake counters don't exist in normal mode, but you must make sure to practice to identify counters than just pressing the skill immediately. After the counter is complete, make sure you do a lot of stagger, because you need a certain amount of stagger to activate her clash. But since in this case, we didn't have enough stagger, so she did one more random pattern. So when you did enough stagger, she'll start with the dialogue, and the class position is going to be right around the center here. So everyone needs to group up at the back just to make sure to get the clash. If someone goes into the clash, the heart projectiles, they explode. And if you get hit by this, you'll get charmed and you'll walk forward. The clash itself is basically the player temporarily blocking her breath. This side, you still get damaged. So hypothetically, if someone gets caught and they're walking in, it's the support's job to either give them the awakening shield or regular shield or some heals to cover them up, because it does a lot of damage when you're on eye level. So when everything is complete, you just need to do enough stagger and then you'll go to the next phase. So again, damage doesn't really matter here. It's all stagger. Sidereal Thar has a massive stagger damage to help breeze through this phase. You have two choices of timings. First is using it right away or using it right after counter. This guarantees to clash right away, but sometimes if you do too much stagger, it skips the clash itself and phase. This is bad because you get Esther energy refunded back if you succeed the clash mechanic. You need additional meter to use it at the next phase. Second method is using it right after the clash. The timing is when the clash buff turns 16 seconds. Walk up closer and use star right away. This one's risk is if you don't do enough stagger in the beginning, you may see some normal patterns before clash and after clash, which may cause accidents. To help prevent accidents, I will go over some normal patterns. Generally, stay away from her because grab happens most frequently. When she gathers up her hand and blow flower petals like this, there will be a lot of mini explosions under your feet. They're indicated at red telegraph. It's kind of hard to dodge because the color palette is pretty similar for no reason. But this particular pattern does kill a lot of people. Also, when she snaps her fingers, there could also be a charm zone at the back of the map. Only this pattern needs to be close to her. And there is also a Medusa. She will crouch down and her eyes will either glow red or blue. Red means away and blue means stare. You will be rooted if you get caught, people will need to free you, and there will be a counter right after the Medusa too. And in normal, there's only the red Medusa. This pattern itself is very rare, so I don't have that much footage, but if you ever happen to see it, just be on your guard. There is also another rare pattern, drag everyone to her from the back, and one person will be tethered and one person will be targeted. Tethered player will have a large circle around them. The large circle itself will give you charm stacks, and the targeted player will have a large butterfly coming to them very slowly. The tethered player and the target player will just need to choose a corner to stay in the back, and everyone just needs to be in the front, not making sure to intercept the large butterfly. This particular phase is going to be very easy. If you stagger as much as you can, you do the clash, and then if you do this special clash timing, it ends really early. But if you are worried about the special clash timing, which is 16 seconds on the buff, you can always start with Thar so that you can see the clash and try to stagger as much as you can, because around 16 seconds, this area is not going to do as much damage to you anymore. So you can actually go earlier, start staggering when she's stuck in animation for the mech. So to wrap up this phase, stagger as much as you can. If you're ranged, keep using your main skills to keep staggering her so you can go to the next phase without looking at a single pattern. When you're phasing, you have an option to look at the full cutscene, because if you look at the full cutscene, you get to remove your debuff because the debuff timer still goes. When you reach the third phase, her HP bar will be 137. Also, her normal patterns will be enhanced. Her flyaway pattern is 3 times instead of 2. The dance pattern leaves a slashing residue that does a lot of damage. And whenever she's on the wall side, she will always do this backstep into spawning a lot of flowers in front of her. This is to reposition herself. And whenever you see a mirror appearing, she's going to grab you, so make sure you save your spacebar. Her ribbon attack, she'll stand still and fire ribbons up to 3 times, and if anyone is hit in between, it's going to explode afterwards for a charm damage. And for another tip is, if you ever see her dash away like this with the big ribbon effect, it's always a counter at the end, but sometimes she does it twice, so keep that in mind. And she also has a co-op counter. When she takes position and then you see a swirl of flowers going up, this is her getting ready for a co-op counter. It's going to be a plus shape on a pizza, and the safe spots are going to be a little bit outside on the X position. So these spots over here, and as soon as the yellow explosion happens, you need to space bar to the front so that you can co-op counter her. One of the most dangerous pattern is her Medusa. She'll stand still and there's going to be a large eyeball on top of her head. If anyone gets caught, she'll have 3 variations of different patterns. The first one is she'll dash backwards and there will be a cone of grab. And if anyone is grabbed, you will need to stagger in time or the grab player will be MC'd. The other Medusa variation is if someone gets caught, she's going to vacuum people in and uppercut. And if you get hit by this, you get knocked off very far. The disappearing version of the Medusa is very, very dangerous. She'll disappear and try to grab everyone really quickly, so you need to save your spacebar here. If anyone is grabbed, she'll activate a stagger bar, and if you don't stagger her in time, everyone grabbed is going to be MC'd. And if everyone gets grabbed, this is like the worst case scenario where you only have 2 people and everyone is grabbed. Obviously, you can't do the stagger. When you guys are in this situation, my tip is to not stagger at all and wait until all these people get MC'd first, then use the sleep bomb later to rescue them. When her HP reaches 120 bars or lower, the snake clash starts. You can notice her being invincible and the identity meter being grayed out to know a clash is coming. Clash positions are 11 and 7-ish. It will show you the position in blue beacon. An 11 o'clock clash is where you use star to have him clash for you. The timing is as soon as you see the blue beacon. After a few seconds, the second clash will appear at 7 o'clock. The first clasher will need to go down and take it. Your goal is to DPS the snake as much as you can. There are two known tactics. You'll need to drop the white snake's HP to at least 62 bars for Thar to finish it off. Then you'll need to DPS the black snake and kill it by the third clash to DPS properly to the last 0 bar phase on time. So after this particular clash, you will need to kill the black snakes in 2 additional clashes. So for this team, in 2 clashes, we need to carve at least 67 bars. If you kill both snakes, you can do bonus 30% damage to Echidna due to this debuff. If this debuff isn't applied fast enough, most likely you'll see Berserk. Coming back to talking about the tactic, when you use Star and finish the first set of clashes, you'll get some sidereal meter back. Afterwards, you'll probably see Identity Mech or Timed Mech first before the second set of clashes. When her identity meter reaches half point, she will stand still and summon her snakes for a map-wide AoE damage. Ren will have a dialogue to suggest burn the eggs down. Hidden sidereal timing is available here with Echidna. If you use it at any time after Ren's dialogue, the mechanic turns into a free 12 to 15 second DPS opportunity. The bonus bar for Echidna is also a damage increase buff, so it may also help you deal more damage for the clash if you manage your sidereal meter really well. With this, the goal is to kill the black snake as quickly as possible to debuff Echidna to push faster. This strategy is more dominant and I recommend using this tactic. Use Star for Clash and Echidna for the first identity mechanic, then save Sidereal until you either face or you get the half bar identity mech again. The second tactic isn't used as much, but if you happen to have someone dead or severely lacking DPS, you can use Star on the first one and push the white snake up to 79 bars instead and DPS the black snake a little more. Afterwards, for the second set of clashes, you need to have someone clash top again and the bottom snake together to use Esther Azena to damage both of the snakes. This helps you kill both snakes dead by this clash session or one more clash at bottom, so you can actually get the 30% damage boost way earlier than the first tactic. The downside of this is since you don't have Esther during the half bar identity mechanic, you'll need to do standard execution. The mechanic is pretty simple. During the mech, the eggs on the wall will have a red highlight. It is placed in the X position. You will need to throw your firebomb or fire skill to burn it to create a safe spot for the first wave of snakes. So these are the safe spot for the first wave of snakes. One crucial thing you need to know is don't trust the red telegraph. After standing in the initial safe position, watch the snakes pass first and then move to the second safe spot. Most people die from this due to moving too quickly by looking at the telegraph. Since Echidna's HP and Berserk time is nerfed, the standard tactic should be the first one, where you use Star to Echidna. Normal mode should use the first tactic because normal mode is much easier. I was actually hesitant adding the second tactic in this guide video to not overload you guys with information, but I think giving it an option is important because you'll never know how your runs are going to be. So in conclusion, use the first tactic because it's infinitely easier to execute, but if you're severely lacking damage, or someone died and want to progress as far as you can, the Thar Azena method can help. For hard mode Oni, you'll also see a time mechanic between clashes. She'll fly up high in the air and flower buds will rain down. This is a sign of a walking pattern, so stay far away. When she lands, all your skills will be locked except your spacebar. Your job is to jump across the pink wave that she creates every step she takes. You'll need to jump total 6 times, indicated on your debuff bar. Don't move too much and spacebar through. And when you have 1 stack of debuff left, jump over and stay close to her for the explosion and watch her feet afterwards. During prog, you'll probably see her full identity mech first. When it reaches full, her Medusa pattern starts. She will disappear and stun in the middle. Looking at her will give you charm stack, so you must look away. Split up, look away, and attack the snakes getting too close to Echidna. Snakes die based on number of hits, so fire nades are really good here. One person will get a target. A large cone will aim as pink and then will turn blue, aim at the target. Anyone getting hit by this blue telegraph will be MC'd, so it is very important for the targeted player to stand still during pink and when it turns blue, spacebar away. Just like so. And from the blue telegraph area, a shielded snake will spawn afterwards too. It is marked on blue on the minimap, and these guys need to be CC'd in order for it to be killed. So this is where you use sleep bombs or any CC skill necessary to kill them. If any snakes reach Echidna, it's a wipe. And when you're finished defending from all, don't stare at Echidna until the pattern is completely done. You can still get stacks if you look a little early. And a quick TMI, these red snakes do appear if you don't kill the black snake in time and then you reach the full identity mech. If you stare at them, they're going to move back, but you'll be getting a petrify stack, so you need to alternate and stare at them. But you'll rarely see this, but as a TMI, if you happen to see it, that's how you take care of it. Additional tip is just like how Medusas work in this game, your character's vision is a narrow cone shape. You can actually move pretty freely as long as your character just don't turn around 180 degrees to look at Echidna. Just keep in mind that as long as you don't directly look at her, it's okay, you're not going to get a stack. If you do, you can always turn around in time and to not get the additional stack. At 55 bars, mirror mechanic starts. This is the only pattern that is different from normal and hard mode. She'll appear in the middle as a mirror. One mirror will glow red in the very beginning. This is the starting position. The center mirror will have an Echidna go left or right. She will do this 5 times. If she moves to the right, it means clockwise, and if she moves to the left, it's counterclock. This indicates where the final mirror position is. And from here, she may swap the mirrors additionally to change the final position. Once you figure out the mirror, stagger and DPS. So going over another example, the mirror spawns in the middle, and then the other 8 mirrors spawn. The first telegraph is going to the right and the red mirror will appear. So these 2 tells happen at the same time. So it's actually pretty important for one other person to like maybe ping the red mirror so that you don't actually miss the first tell. So this goes to the right and then left, 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 and then right. So if you think about it, it's clockwise, counter, 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 and then clockwise. So this is the final mirror that is going to be placed within this tell. So you ping it, and then we're just going to wait. It is also really important for you to stand kind of in the middle, just in case that, let's say this mirror swaps to this and you're kind of like out of vision. Gotta watch out for that. You can actually attack this mirror for additional meter gains. So for any of it, like a supports or any of the classes that require meter gain, you can actually gain some here. You stagger the mirror, and then you'll need to DPS in the middle. And then this is a huge DPS check, so it's pretty important to use either Atrophin and 3 bubbles and all that stuff ready to go. For normal mode, I apologize for not having a footage due to not having a character for it, but it's much more simple. In normal mode, there's not going to be a red mirror, and then you're not going to guess which mirror that is going to be a real one. But in the center, she's going to move left or right. And her going to the left is clockwise, and this indicates the rotation of the center mirror. So if she's going to the right, the mirror is going to rotate counterclockwise. And when the mirror rotates counterclockwise, it's going to fire a petrify beam in a cone shape. So essentially, for normal mode, you just chase the mirrors back the whole time and stagger along the way as well. From here, for hard mode, you'll see walking pattern again, and the identity meter may fill up half again as well for the mech. Save your Sidereal meter for Ephernia, only for this to be extra safe. And reaching 0 bars, for hard mode only, there's one more berserk mechanic. Echidna will fly down and stand in the center, and there's a large symbol pointing at 11, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Her normal patterns are 360 AoEs, and after 2 normal patterns, she'll try to grab everyone up front. The normal pattern that most people make mistake is she's going to turn around and she's going to do a large slash on the front of her. If you see this slash, she actually does it 2 more times by slashing on the left side and behind as well. As long as you stand on the first slash point, you'll never get hit by additional attacks. And this is really important to dodge, because if you get hit by this, you get knocked off, you get stuck by the wall, and then you would use your spacebar to get up. Every 2 normal patterns, so this is the first pattern and the second pattern, so this is the heart patterns, so you're going to get stunned here. She's going to do a grab, so you notice the grab in the front side with the yellow telegraph. She grabs you, and the bottom symbols will be glowing. So 1 is glowing, and then 9 is glowing, and then 5 is glowing. This is indicate where she's going to counter. So you need to communicate with the team by saying 1, 9, and 5. And then she will be launching you off. You are MC'd at this point, so one person in the party will need to throw a sleep bomb at you and auto attack so that they can wake you up from sleep. For the people who are outside at this point, it's their job to counter. So in this case, it's 3, 11, 5. And the critical part about this is she has a fake counter, and she glows in flashy red. And if you hit this counter, she explodes and does a massive damage to you guys. So since we're shielded, we lived, but if you're on item level and you're progging, it's going to kill most people. So you have to make sure to not hit the fake counter. So when we spacebar back in, we're countering 11, and then she's going to turn to 5, and then we're going to counter. And when all counters complete, she'll be stunned, and she'll get a debuff where she takes additional damage. And every time you do this specific grab mechanic, stack will go up. Most raids finish at 2, but some raids can finish at 3 stacks. Before we go over a live example again, my tip is that there are 4 variations: 195, 3-11-5, 11-5-9, and 9-3-1. Also, if the first counter is real, the second is always fake, and the third one is always real. If the first counter is fake, the second and third are always real. Basically, if you remember this tip, the mechanic is going to be much easier. So going over a live example, so he grabs another teammate, and he's going to communicate where it is. So he does say 11-5-9. That means his 11 is on the left side, and then 5's on the right side, and 9's on the left side again. It alternates. So we're going to see, the first thing you have in mind is the counter going to be fake or not? So the first counter is real, so we counter it, and second one's going to be fake, and it's going to be at 5, so we don't really need to stand there. So you'd be doing DPS at 9 and waiting until the third counter, just like so. And then if you counter it, you executed the mechanic flawlessly. And since she gets a debuff every time you succeed this counter, it is wise to use Azena when she has either the second stack of debuff or the third stack of debuff, so you can push massive damage. You usually don't want to use your Sidereal at the start of the fight. You want to use it when she's stunned. Okay, so that wraps up the Echidna raid. I wanted to talk a little more about this, but I wanted to keep the video as short as I can, even though it's pretty long right now. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to leave it in the comments or visit the stream to ask. Thanks guys, and good luck on the raid. Bye bye.